Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. When you look at the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, verse 22 and on, discusses the commandment, the precept of tithing. God says, I want you to tithe. Question. Does God really need our tithe? Does he need me to give him the tithe? What exactly is behind this mitzvah, this commandment? Especially considering when you look in the book of Exodus, chapter 19, verse 5, God says very clearly, Ki li kol haaretz, for to me is the entire universe. I own everything. So why would he need me to give him a tithe? Or does he need me to give him a tithe? The answer is, I need me to give him a tithe. And God, in his infinite kindness, allowed us and encourages us to give him a tithe, to make it, as we'll see in a moment, to make it possible for us to connect to him. You see, there's a Hasidic tale which really brings out a great lesson and can shed light on this very important topic. You see, the holy Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, taught that from everything that one sees or hears, one should learn a lesson from it. Think about it. Everything's divine providence. So if God makes it that you should encounter something, you should become aware of something, that means there's something for you to learn from it. Well, there's a story about two Hasidic scholars who were traveling, and they took a little break. They stopped off in an inn, in a tavern, and they sat there to warm up in the cold winter. And they overheard a conversation between two peasants, in fact, two drunks. And one was saying to the other, I don't understand. I can't understand the rules and the regulations of our government, of the czar, of the king. You see, the other day, I have a neighbor that they're so poor, they barely have anything to eat. And whatever they own, if they do own something, is tattered and shredded from old age and so much usage. And yet, I witnessed the following. The taxman showed up and demanded that they pay the taxes. But they didn't have anything to pay. They don't have anything to pay. And they explained it to him. Well, he went ahead and confiscated all their belongings, whatever he can take with him. He took a big giant sack and filled it up with all their shredded sheets and torn towels and their just hollowed out pillows and blankets with barely any feathers left in them. And he left. And I'm thinking to myself, what does he need it for? What is the czar going to do with it? They have no value. Who's going to even buy it? Even a poor person wouldn't buy it. These people are poorer than poor. What use is it to the government to confiscate these items from these poor people when they're not going to get any monetary value for it? And the other peasant looks at him and says, what don't you understand? Think of it. If these poor people would become exempt from paying their taxes due to the fact that they don't have the funds, that they indeed, genuinely, are so poor that they don't have the money, imagine what can happen, that with time, as time goes on, they can even forget that they have a connection to the czar, that they have a connection to the king, that they are citizens of this country. They would have absolutely no obligation. They're poor. They're not paying any taxes whatsoever. And they just become almost like independent citizens. That's the point. The czar doesn't need it. I'm sure they throw it out once they bring it to the warehouses of the tax collector. But the fact is that they have a sense of they gave. They are part of it. They belong. Think of it from those terms. It's not that God needs us to give him money. He doesn't need our tithe. He can survive without it. He can take care of his world very well without it. The fact is, he's done so before we were here. He's the one who brought us here, and he will continue to do so way after we're long gone. But God wants to give us that sense of connection, that we have a part in it, that we are connected to him. Thus, he gives us this amazing mitzvah, this commandment of tithing, of sharing from our earnings for his purposes.